Hello everyone. Bonjour tout le monde. Je suis ici aujourd'hui avec la vice-première ministre.
I am here today with Deputy Prime Minister Freeland and Ministers Anand, Fraser and Wilkinson to talk about what we continue to do to support Ukrainians.
President Putin continued his brutal assault on Ukraine, but Ukrainians have held strong. The whole world is inspired by the strength and intensity of their resistance, and Canada will continue to deliver support for Ukraine's heroic defense against the Russian military. Yesterday, we announced that we would be sending new shipments of military supplies, including body armor, helmets, gas masks, and night vision goggles. Today, we are announcing that we will be supplying Ukraine with anti-tank weapons systems and upgraded ammunition. Of course, this is in addition to our 3 previous shipments of lethal and non-lethal equipment. It's encouraging to see so many of our partners also stepping up to deliver support and equipment to Ukraine. The international community is rallying to support democracy and the people of Ukraine. The Canadian Armed Forces will also be providing airlift support to transport supplies and aid and to contribute to other NATO efforts. Since this assault began, thousands of Ukrainian families have been fleeing to escape the violence. President Putin has created a refugee crisis. We've said we would be there for the people of Ukraine, and that includes making sure they can find safety here in Canada. We have bolstered our presence in the region and are fast-tracking immigration applications for Ukrainians who want to come to Canada. Pendant qu'on apporte de l'aide à l'Ukraine,
as we provide assistance to Ukraine, we also continue to work with our allies and partners to ensure that Russian aggression does not go unpunished. Over the past few days, I have spoken with many world leaders, including President Biden, as well as members of the G7 and other European partners. We have discussed developments and our concerted actions. Together, we continue to take further steps to hold President Putin and his oligarchs accountable and to weaken Russia's ability to finance this war they have chosen.
On Saturday, alongside our allies and partners, we announced our support for removing several major Russian banks from the SWIFT payment system. This will leave these banks effectively disconnected from the international financial system. And to prevent the Russian central bank from undermining the impact of our sanctions, we are paralyzing its international reserve assets. As of this morning, Canadian financial institutions are barred from any transactions with the Russian central bank, and we are prohibiting any direct or indirect dealings in Russian sovereign debt. Aujourd'hui,
Today, we are announcing our intention to ban all imports of crude oil from Russia, an industry that has benefited President Putin and his oligarchs greatly. This industry accounts for more than 1/3 of Russia's federal budget revenues, and while Canada has imported very little amounts in recent years, this measure sends a powerful message. In addition, it ensures that those who are complicit in President Putin's atrocities cannot escape the consequences of their actions. This is why it was announced that Russian oligarchs will be prevented from using their wealth to buy citizenship abroad and avoid the consequences of sanctions.
The Russian government is now experiencing the severity of our coordinated sanctions. It is increasingly clear that President Putin has made a grave miscalculation. Today, the ruble plunged to record lows and the Russian stock market was forced to close. People across Russia and around the world are taking to the streets, demanding freedom for Ukraine. Our message is clear. This unnecessary war must stop now. The costs will only grow steeper, and those responsible will be held accountable. En ces moments difficiles,
In these difficult times, it is important to continue to rely on the facts. In Russia, President Putin continues to block the independent media and uses the state-controlled media to spread falsehoods and propaganda about his unwarranted war. Such misinformation will not be allowed to spread in Canada.
The CRTC is an independent body, and we will be asking them to begin the process to review Russia Today's presence on Canadian airwaves. The rigorous process is important when it comes to the independence of media in our country. But even ahead of that decision, major providers are already removing RT proactively. There is a significant amount of disinformation circulating from Russia, including on social media, and we all need to keep calling it out. Our government will continue to be a leader on this. Those who are witnessing the truth are seeing civilians being targeted, grandparents joining the fight, families with young children sheltering in subway stations, and people fleeing to the border with only a suitcase. These images are heartbreaking, and they lay bare the human costs of war. To support relief efforts in the region, our government continues to provide humanitarian aid. Canadians are stepping up to help Ukrainians, and we're ready to match that help. So, if you donate to the Canadian Red Cross Ukraine Humanitarian Crisis Appeal, our government will match your donation up to $10 million. This is in addition to the $50 million for development and humanitarian aid we've already committed. To the people of Ukraine, your bravery is truly remarkable. The whole world is watching your courage and your strength. We are deeply inspired as we honor your fight for freedom, for democracy, and human rights. Canada stands with you. Slava Ukraini. Merci.
Thank you, Prime Minister. Dr. Martin Luther King believed that the arc of the moral universe is long, but that it bends towards justice. He also knew that there are evil men in the world who seek to thwart that benign curve and push us all back into darkness. Because of those men, there are moments in history when the great struggle between freedom and tyranny comes down to one fight in one place, which is waged for all of humanity. In 1863, that place was Gettysburg. In 1940, it was the skies above Britain. Today, in 2022, it is Kyiv. Aujourd'hui, dans les rues pavées de cette ville
Today, in the cobbled streets of this golden-domed city, a fierce, united people, led by their confident president, are fighting a barbaric invasion. The brave Ukrainian people are fighting for themselves, and they are also fighting for all of us. Indeed, at this moment, Ukraine is bravely positioning itself as the moral voice of the free world.
I bow my head in solemn respect to Ukraine and to all Ukrainians. Canada is proud to stand with you. But there is another side to this story. While brave Ukrainian civilians gamely learn how to make Molotov cocktails to defend their homes, one of the world's most brutal war machines is bombarding them. Not content to terrorize his own people, President Vladimir Putin is seeking to impose his tyranny on his democratic, freedom-loving neighbors. In launching this war, President Putin attacked the values and the international rules-based order, which are the foundations of all of the democracies of the world. And in so doing, he and his hangers-on have forfeited the right to partake in the global prosperity which we, the world's democracies, have built together. C'est pourquoi, en partenariat avec
That is why, in partnership with Europe and the United States and the United Kingdom, we now have in place the toughest sanctions ever imposed on a major economy. No Canadian financial institution, including the Bank of Canada, will transact with the Russian Central Bank. The entire world is now acting to stop Russian banks from using the SWIFT payment system. These measures will cut Russia off financially from the Western world. They will render useless much of the war chest that Vladimir Putin has amassed in his central bank.
And to our Russian counterparts, who are today struggling vainly to prop up a ruble in free fall, let me say, we warned you. 12 days ago, I urged the governor of the Russian Central Bank not to allow her government to launch an illegal and unprovoked war. I cautioned her that if Russia took this horrible step, it would be, as Talleyrand reportedly said, worse than a crime. It would be a mistake. The West's economic sanctions, I warned, would be swift, coordinated, sustained, and crushing. They are, and they will continue to be. Dictators, very much including the Kremlin's tyrant, often fail to understand democracies. We can seem to them to be weak and divided compared to the servile conformity that they impose on their societies at the barrel of a gun. But our very openness to debate and dispute means that once we are agreed on a course of action, we are strong and we are united. The people of Ukraine are today showing the incredible strength of a free people fighting for their democracy. And the world's democracies are equally resolute in our support for the brave people of Ukraine. This is one of those times and one of those places where freedom confronts tyranny. We are determined that freedom will triumph, and it will. Slava Ukraini. And now I hand over the floor to my colleague, Sean Fraser, our Minister of Immigration.